Otsutsuki VS Shinju could be the true ending of Boruto 2 Blue Vortex. The theory stems from a well-known movie from the 2000s, Alien vs Predator, which followed a very similar theme. And looking at the obsession of the authors with science fiction, it seems like we are on the right track. Well, the climatic ending of this movie featured an unexpected union between two people, and correlating that to the events of 2 Blue Vortex, it seems like the role of the Shinju, especially Jura, will extend till the climax of the story. So stay tuned to find out with whom Jura might align in the end, and let us unravel the other big hints which support this massive possibility. The Otsutsuki and the Ten-Tails are the two dangerous species in the shinobi world which can destroy everything. The fear of Kashinkoji would only come true once both of these creatures will come together. The Ten-Tails needs an Otsutsuki to produce a chakra fruit, and this process destroys the entire life on a specific planet. Momoshiki, Ishiki and Shibai, all of them seem to have consumed these divine fruits in their lifetime, with Shibai achieving the biggest goal of this grind, the attainment of godhood. And Ishiki apparently was really close to unlocking this stage based on his immense power level, plus the black eye Kokugen that was wielded by Shibai as well. So what was the origin point of this exploitative relationship between the Ten-Tails and the Otsutsuki? Well, according to Amado, a Ten-Tail sapling needs to be planted in order to trigger the growth of a divine tree. Once the Ten-Tails devours an Otsutsuki creature, it transforms into a divine tree, which then produces a chakra fruit by absorbing all the chakra available on a planet. And now that the Ten-Tails have become sentient in the story, it has become even harder for the heroes to avoid the destruction of the world, simply because Jura, the personification of the Jubi, can anytime devour Kawaki or Boruto, which would result in the extinction of the planet and its life. But looking at how everything is still intact and both Boruto and Kawaki are fighting in the flash forward, it seems like the Shinju for some reason did not devour the only two Otsutsukis. Well, I will get there in a moment, but first let's understand how did this species kept on serving the Otsutsuki for thousands of years. A Ten-Tails seem to evolve into a chakra fruit once an Otsutsuki gets fed to him, and this means a single Ten-Tails cannot be used to destroy multiple planets. So how did the Otsutsukis like Shibai did it? Well, the answer could lie in the claw marks, the ability of code which originated from the god Otsutsuki. Just like how he multiplied the Jubi into claw grinds, something similar could have been done by Shibai to spam a large number of Ten-Tails just for the sake of using them to destroy multiple planets. And then the Otsutsukis which followed him could have collected the remaining Ten-Tails entities that were multiplied by Shibai's Shinjutsu just to use them in their own journeys. I hope you pay attention to this possibility cause it's going to play a vital part in something big towards the end of this video. There could even be other ways to form more of such beings like breeding, and all of it will make sense as we dive deeper into this iceberg. The Ten-Tails for thousands of years were exploited by the Otsutsukis for their own sake, and now that they have reached enlightenment, they could soon start their revenge arc against the cruel invader race. Well, this reminds me of the plot of Alien vs Predator that we will be using to understand the many aspects of Boruto's future. So before we dive into the complex relationship of Shinjutsu, Shinju, Shinobi and Shibai, the 4S of 2 Blue Vortex, let's understand some mind-blowing parallels from Alien vs Predator that will help us to understand the climatic ending a lot better. So basically the aliens are Otsutsukis, predators are the equivalent of the Shinjus, and humans in the story's context are Shinobis. Alien vs Predator is a crossover film that merges two iconic science fiction characters from different franchises. The first is Xenomorphs, introduced in the 1979 classic Alien, known for their deadly and parasitic nature. The second is the Yautja, highly skilled alien hunters from the 1987 film Predator. Together, these two extraterrestrial species clash in a thrilling narrative, with humans caught in the middle of their ancient rivalry. Drawing comparison to 2 Blue Vortex, it seems like the Shinjus will now act as the predators who would seek revenge from the Xenomorph-inspired species, the Otsutsukis. And to no one's surprise, the relationship between the Xenomorphs and humans is similar to how the Otsutsukis interact with humanity in the story of Boruto. Xenomorphs rely on humans as vessels to reproduce, driven by their natural instinct to ensure the survival of their species. In a similar manner, the Otsutsuki clan with their godlike power utilize the humans as vessels to resurrect themselves using the karma seed. Both species take advantage of the humans, treating them as nothing more than a means to fulfill their own purposes. Well, till now there was no predator of the Otsutsuki in the universe. The Ten-Tails were brainless and could be tamed and trained through exploitative means. But now with them unlocking consciousness as well as the urge to know more about the world, it seems like a countdown for the Otsutsukis has already begun. And that's why I believe some more narratives from this movie could help us to crack the code of Two Blue Vortex. The Shinjus will become the predators and will go after the Otsutsuki clan to take revenge for the suffering that they have caused to their species. We will get back to the analogies and comparisons in a moment, but first let's unravel the 4S of the story that will lay the foundation of the biggest conflict and potentially the conclusion as well. First off, the Shinjutsu. And here we are talking about the power of Shibai, which was used by Code to divide the Ten-Tails, followed by the divine DNA triggering the awakening of Jura and the 4 people who became the targets of claw grimes. So going by the theory that I discussed in the beginning, Shibai could have utilized the Shinjutsu to bring more of this species into existence, or maybe he created a blueprint of evolution for his clan by being the first Otsutsuki to use the Ten-Tails in evolving himself. Now here comes a crazy take that will blow your mind. If you notice the attire of Jura closely, it appears worn out and damaged, as if he was fighting someone before being born. Well, what if that's actually the case? It could be that the Ten-Tails were once intellectual creatures who were reduced to tamed animals by some Otsutsuki god for the sake of making things easier for his clan. It's actually not impossible, considering how omnipotence can bring any sort of imagination into reality. So what if Jura, before turning into a Ten-Tailed sapling, was fighting an Otsutsuki? What if the original way for the Otsutsukis to evolve was to fight the sentient Ten-Tails instead of controlling a wild species? Now what I'm about to say is really shocking. Have you realized why the Shinjus turn into soul thorns after getting killed? Well, you could say that for the purpose of bringing the claw grime victims back to life. But what about Jura? He doesn't have any human counterpart, and going by the analogy, he must turn into a soul thorn too, right? Well, what if I told you these creatures turn into soul thorns after death so that the Otsutsukis could absorb them and gain their power? But all of that changed thousands of years ago when an Otsutsuki god turned them into a beast-like creature which is now known as the Ten-Tails. Well, to get deeper into this mystery, let's get to the second S, the Shinjus. This part is my personal favorite because not only are we gonna cover the pre-finale role of these creatures, especially Jura, but also the base for their revolt against the Otsutsuki clan. So to understand the devolution of the Shinjus better, we can take some reference from the 1968 movie Planet of Apes. In the original movie, humans are rendered powerless under the oppression of the evolved ape civilization. The story is set in a dystopian future where apes have become the dominant species, reversing the roles of humans and animals. They possess advanced intelligence, language, and societal structures, while humans are reduced to a primitive and voiceless state, treated as mere animals for labor, experimentation, and entertainment. Well, I guess you already know where this is going. The first Otsutsuki to gain the power of omnipotence had utilized it to strip the Jubi of their intellect, turning them into mindless and voiceless beings. But little did they know their Shinjutsu would be used to awaken their consciousness. Well, this brings us to a vital detail about Jura that most of the fandom is overlooking: the thirst of knowledge which is making him read countless books. He is so invested in his studies that he is choosing to ignore his prime targets just to buy some books from the village. He has respect for everything that Konoha has to offer, be it the architecture or the innocent people. The only time when he gets furious is the moment when someone comes in between his plans. So as confirmed by Shikamaru, the Shinju are not inherently evil, and if you are subscribed to the channel, you must already know this. So why is there so much thirst of knowledge pumping inside Jura? Could the reasons have something to do with the possible curse of the Otsutsuki, which reduced his entire race to voiceless entities? Well, there are a few possibilities that will help us to crack the mystery of Jura's intellectual hunger. The last one would connect us with the third S, so let's get into it. As for the surface level reason behind the seek of knowledge of the sentient Ten-Tails, it might simply be a way for him to know and connect with this world better without having any other motives involved. Just like how a newborn learns the ways of the society over time, Jura's case might be no different. It seems like he's trying to fit in this world without having to rely on his instincts when taking some decisions, and that may be why he's so intrigued by knowledge, so much that he has literally turned into a living bookworm. But is this the true reason behind his obsession with mortal knowledge? Well, the second theory says otherwise. I believe the real reason for Jura to obsess over knowledge is the desire to find the truth that he has inherited. Just like how every Shinju is after someone whom their human counterpart used to share a bond with. So what if Jura used to share a bond with the Ten Tails, which got divided into 9 Biju by Hogoromo? Connecting this to my previous theory of how the Ten Tails were multiplied by Shinjutsu, everything seems to make a lot of sense. But if all the Jubi were a part of a whole sometime in the past, and that is why Jura is after the Nine-Tailed Beast. Taking this a step forward with my omnipotence theory on these creatures, it could be that both of these Ten Tails were blood related sometime in the past, and Jura was just a child when he got turned into a voiceless creature through omnipotence. This explains why he wants to devour Himawari, who seems to have become one with Kurama. He wants to know his own kith and kin better in order to solve the greatest origin mystery of his life. But unfortunately for him, he is trying to find that knowledge in human books, whose accounts have been rewashed by omnipotence long ago. But fatefully for him, this mortal research would open the doors to the biggest plot twist of the story, the one which has been teased for almost a decade now. And this brings us to the third S from the climatic mystery. The recent developments in the story seems to have paved a way for us to understand what actually went wrong. Shikamaru is going back to the older roots of shinobi, which deal with betrayal and backstabbing instead of love and compassion. He calls it a strategic plan, but little does he know it's the beginning of Konoha's downfall. So basically the plan is gonna backfire in two different ways, and both of them will merge at a focal point, making everything 10 times worse. First we have the research of Jura that he is doing solely for the purpose of finding an answer to his own existence. But what if I told you he will find the flaws and fragility of a faulty system which currently controls this world? I think Jura will soon get exposed to some dark side of shinobis which would provide him some knowledge of their devious history. But after the shinobis would succeed at betraying his fellow comrades, he would realize that they do not understand emotions like love and kindness, something that Naruto was the best at doing. The whole idea of Two Blue Vortex is a reflection of the shinobi world losing its light after the loss of Naruto. But the next big twist would be that Jura won't cause the destruction himself, but would likely pass down his observations to Kawaki, who would then take action, and here is why I think so. Have you ever seen someone studying relentlessly without sharing or implementing his knowledge? In most cases, the answer must be a no, which means all this philosophical overflow that Jura has been witnessing by reading countless books will someday mark a point in the story when he will come up with his own philosophy, which would be centered around how this world requires a reformation. And surprisingly enough, his revelations would align best with Kawaki, who would then launch a full-scale plan against the ninja world. As they say, without consumption there is no creation, so I'm really hyped to see what Jura has been cooking for so long and how it's gonna change the mindset of Kawaki for the worse. So let me know if you have some theories on what Jura's philosophy is going to be, and I will cover them in a separate video. Now before we get to what you have been waiting for, the Otsutsuki VS Shinju inspired by Alien vs Predator, let's take a look at the concluding part of the 4S, which is Shibai Otsutsuki. Not to mention we are gonna get some intel for the climatic ending from this as well, so I hope you don't skip over this one. As for how I think Shibai gets involved with the Shinjus, I would like to address the Shi suffix which has been used for all these people. I think it was something that the author has done on purpose, and you must have a rough idea about it from this video, but let me make it more simpler for you. First we have Shinjutsu, the power which has literally brought worlds into existence, and without it nothing would have existed. Then we have the Shinjus, the early sapient creatures of the Boruto universe who seem to hold a lot of power. The Otsutsukis used to destroy them to obtain their soul thorn in order to become more powerful, but since they were the predator species, it was hard for the Otsutsukis to defeat them, possibly making a lot of them lose their lives. But all of it changed when Shibai attained godhood and transformed the sentient beings into wild creatures. So the role of Shibai could be to guide a prodigy towards a journey which would help him to prevent the Shinjus from causing harm to the Otsutsuki clan. At first Boruto may have shaken hands with the Shinju if his grudges were just with the invader species, but the fact that his homeland and the shinobis have gotten involved after Kawaki came under the influence of the Shinju philosophy, the stakes for the main character have raised to enormous levels, and this is why he was granted the Pure Eye, a power that will help him to get rid of the darkness. So now let's discuss the climatic ending of Two Blue Vortex and how the Otsutsuki vs Shinju plot is about to turn out. So the ending of Alien vs Predator, the movie which has a lot of similar themes to Two Blue Vortex, could help us to understand where the story is headed. It ends with the human protagonist forming an uneasy alliance with the surviving predator nicknamed Scar. They fight the alien queen together and use their combined skills and strategy to defeat her. So looking back at the analogy from Two Blue Vortex, it seems like that Jura would sooner or later form an alliance with Boruto after he succeeds at resolving the Kawaki conflict. Boruto could then help Jura to avenge his species by destroying the Otsutsuki clan, a dream that was once held by Kawaki. It could even be that Kawaki is alive and both the Kama wielders would make Jura change his mind on the shinobi system just to form a final alliance with him against the Otsutsukis. In a nutshell, Boruto's job is to get both Kawaki and Jura on his side by changing their philosophical view of the world for the better. Now you could ask me, if Shibai is on Boruto's side, how could he let the Shinjus win over the Otsutsukis? Well, things get a bit tricky from here, but let me break it down. We know Shibai has been enjoying the stature of godhood for some time now, and for some reasons, the Otsutsukis are unaffected by omnipotence. This doesn't only apply to memory rewash, rather every manifestation of the Otsutsuki god won't apply to his own clan. In simple words, Shibai won't be able to change his own clan to voiceless creatures, similar to what he did with the Shinjus, because all of them are immune from his divine spell. I believe he desperately wanted to fix his own clan, which is why he left his mortal remains behind and ascended to godhood. He knew Jura will be born and Boruto will end up in such a situation. All of this was orchestrated by Shibai to secure an outcome where a team of the most powerful fighters would bring a revolution to the Otsutsuki system. The series could conclude after the victory of the good guys over the Otsutsuki clan and the ten-tailed species regaining their humanoid form. Well, if you enjoyed this video, you will certainly enjoy these ones as well. So make sure to check them out and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. I will see you next time.